Welcome everyone back to another video today. I'm your host, Professor Failure, and today we're looking at the Titanic again. So you're probably wondering why. Well, if you watched my original video on Titanic, you'll notice how I left out so many important details that are definitely something important about the ship and how it sank. So that's what this video is for today. So some of the details that I left out on that video were very important to the actual story of the Titanic, and I wanted to give my most viewed video a second chance at being a good quality video. So let's look at the story of the most popular ship that some reason is under the water to this day. So let's get started. But before we go any further, I knew I couldn't do this remake without our very special guest speaker, Aaron from Losers Inc.
Thank you for having me, Philip.
Now, let's dive into the Titanic.
You didn't just say what I...
Alrighty, where do we begin? Well, let's begin with the construction of the Titanic, as it was fairly important and can give you a reason of why they thought it was so unsinkable. But we all know how that ends.
Let's jump back to 1909, 3 years before the ship sank. The company White Star Line was trying to build the biggest and best ship ever. They were also competing with multiple other companies, so the pressure was on.
White Star Line had to make the biggest, most extravagant boat ever, which would not be a cheap job, which brings us to the construction part of the Titanic. The Titanic cost $7.5 million. The ship was 882 feet long, 175 feet tall, and it had a width of 92 feet. Now, that might seem big, but compared to some of our modern ships today, like the Symphony of the Seas, it's actually pretty small.
The ship had 16 watertight compartments, and even if full or filled, it would still float. But there were only 16 lifeboats on the ship. The White Star Line put so few on it because they didn't want to damage the ship's reputation as unsinkable. This is important because it's the main reason a lot of people died.
Second class on the Titanic was comparable to first class on other ships because of how modern and magnificent it was. Only millionaires and celebrities will be able to go on first and second class unless they were third class passengers.
One of its most notable features was its grand staircase, but it still hasn't been found amongst the wreckage. It also had a swimming pool, which is still theoretically usable.
Just stop. It also had many more things for you to do, such as a gym, a library, and more. Now let's begin with the sinking of the Titanic.
But first, let's do an ad.
Do you like swimming but really don't want to go in any old swimming pool? Introducing the Titanic swimming pool. This pool is a really reliable swimming pool, so you'll never have to worry about any problems. If this pool can survive shipwrecks, then you have nothing to worry about. If you would like a Titanic swimming pool, call in the next 20 minutes and we can get you 20% off of your order. Call now.
Do you like classic art? Would you like to own a piece of classic art? If so, you should come down and visit Botanoni's Very Not Stolen Goods pawn shop. They have everything, suspiciously accurate replicas of missing paintings, to diamonds that strangely seem to have come from a necklace. Whatever probably not stolen goods you desire, they have.
In the morning of April 10th, 1912, people started to board the ship for its maiden voyage. Edward Smith would be the captain of the ship, and it would be his last time ever captaining another ship.
It would stop in Cherbourg, France, and Queenstown, Ireland before heading to North America. Other ships had been signaling Titanic because of icebergs in the area, so they plotted a new course for the ship.
As nightfall came, the temperature started to drop in the water and in the air. At 11:40 p.m., one of the crew members spotted the iceberg that would seal the Titanic's fate.
The man rang the warning bell to warn of the iceberg. The ship turned to dodge the iceberg, but it was too late, and the ship got caught, and the iceberg cut several deep holes into the Titanic.
At 11:50 p.m., 6 compartments were filled, and they knew it was going to sink. At midnight, they sent out stress signals to tell the other ships that they were sinking.
They started boarding passengers onto the lifeboats, women and children first. But there was a problem. Many of the lifeboats could carry 60 people, when they were only putting 20 people on them.
The RMS Carpathia was 50 miles away at the time, coming to rescue them. Distress flares were sent out, so if any boats would pass by, they would see that the Titanic was sinking.
As the front of the ship sank, the back started to rise. Lifeboats were becoming scarce. But the violin players had an idea. They played their instruments in an attempt to keep people calm.
The last lifeboat left, and there were still 1,500 people on the ship. Anyone who was still on the ship probably slipped into the cold water because the back of the ship was almost completely in the air.
The back of the ship broke off and the front of the ship slammed down on the water. Captain Smith went down with the ship, unlike the Costa Concordia's captain.
The front of the ship went down, and as it broke off from the back spun around, hitting the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. People who didn't die on the ship would have died from hypothermia as a result from the freezing waters. Anyone who was on the lifeboats went back looking for survivors. Margaret Brown was one of these people who wanted to do that.
The RMS Carpathia arrived and rescued 705 people. After this, the Carpathia circled back to New York, and there Margaret Brown gave the captain of the Carpathia an award for saving the survivors of the Titanic.
And that, my friends, is the end of the Titanic. As for the Carpathia, she continued her life until the war in the 50s, and she was torpedoed and sunk.
73 years after the sinking of the Titanic, on September 1st, 1985, the Titanic was found by Robert Ballard because he had been looking for submarines in the area and just happened to stumble upon the Titanic. There were no bodies found on the Titanic, but things like shoes and other personal objects of the passengers were found.
The Titanic had 2 sister ships, the Olympic and the Britannic. The Britannic sank because of a mine explosion, and the Olympic collided with another ship. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching today's video. Aaron, would you like to say anything before we end today's video?
I have a channel, Losers Inc. It's been a long while since I've uploaded, but I have a video in the works. It should be out soon. Let's go with that.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you come back next Christmas for our Christmas special, The Symphony of the Seas.